Anna, you're a fascist. Anna, fascist.
Let me introduce you to patriotic brown shirt James Goddard and his attempts at radicalizing white America. Let's take a look.
Break it down.
Did you know that white people are going to become a minority in the United States by the year 2045?
He ignorant. Motherfucker feels ignorant. Chihuahua here.
What are you, fucking back from the future?
I'm back from the future.
Great Scott.
No, I'm asking you whether you care that white people are being replaced in America. Do you care that you're going to be a minority in just 24 years?
A minority? What do you mean?
So, white people are going to become less and less.
I don't want to take over.
As time goes on, the white population is going to decrease.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
The ethnic minority population is going to increase, meaning white people will then become a minority. Are you worried about that?
No. 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 No.
No.
Why not?
Yeah, you just sound hella ignorant.
Well, no, I'm asking you a question. Are you not concerned with the destruction of your own people?
No.
Right. Why is that?
Because you got no discipline, you got zero fucking initiative. You fall apart without me. You're just too pathetic for words. You're a fucking loser and you fucking know it.
Just because they're white doesn't make them my people. My family is my people. I got black people in my family.
Well, they can't be blood related because they're black and you're white. So it's obviously because somebody's married one of them.
No, it's because they're my friend and I consider them family.
Well, they're not your family biologically. So again, I'm going to ask you. So do you know, have you seen countries like South Africa and Zimbabwe?
European nations, boosted by their superior military technology, engage in a race for control of the largest possible territory at the expense of local kingdoms and empires. In most cases, land is stolen and redistributed to European settlers.
Have you seen what happens when well, look at South Africa, you know, white people there are being systematically wiped out. And this could come to the United States as well, you know, when white people become a minority. Do you think you're gonna, I'm not wrong, do you think you're going to have the same rights and privileges that minorities receive today?
I'm going to have the same rights and privileges I have now than when 45 years from now.
Well, technically no, because Biden's just been elected as president. He's going to come for your guns and your free speech.
It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter whether or not they had no background that enabled them to become socialized into the fabric of society.
Yo, bitch in that black with that swervo. Get your bitch in that swervo.
You're just showing yourself to be low IQ and stupid.
Swervo.
Look at you, can't even have a normal conversation. And you look like you're dressed like a mint humbug. What's wrong with you, man?
You look homeless. Shut the fuck up. You live
do you know what? No, do you know what? I feel sorry for you because your mind's clearly been polluted by parasites and you're quite happy for your own people to be replaced. You're probably still a virgin and I'm guessing you still live at home with mum and dad. I'd also hazard a guess that you're more than likely a closet homosexual as well. So on that note, I'll bid you farewell. Take care.
What we witnessed there was a pitiful and laughable attempt at radicalizing white America, and it just didn't land. Now, quite clearly, James is an absurd individual. Now, he came to prominence or infamy in 2019 for
Anna, fascist.
Look at these lovely people.
Keep going. Come on, answer the question.
When they were commuting between Parliament and wherever, and he was hurling abuse. He later went on to plead guilty to harassment for.
You're a fascist. Anna.
And later that year also he was then found guilty for or given a restraining order against an independent journalist. Who is he? No one really. No one significant anyway. You could say he's a champion for tradition or just a sheep who's lost his flock. But that would be generous. Because ultimately the people he supports and attention he's trying to seek, he's probably despised by them. At best, he's an incel.
From the beginning, somehow I could never find my place in society. All these people, my peers, dealt with some kind of infantile stuff. They were loud.
He's a tragic figure, and that's the issue here.
What about the women? Have you been with someone?
No, all the women rejected me right away. They didn't even notice me, like I wasn't even there.
So, I'm going to be kind. I'm not going to be generous, I'm going to be kind.
He had it coming.
The tragedy of this figure is a phenomenon of this age. And, he's a character who's been left behind somewhat by the traditions of his family or, the traditions of this country. And has become disenfranchised and has found a way to express his arguments against the traditional normative positions in politics, sex, gender and class. But what is he actually against?
I don't know.
Well, it's quite ambiguous. That's the actual tragedy. Because he doesn't really have an ultimate cause. He's lost all his anchors to the past and to traditions. But he's definitely not happy with his lot in life right now. And he feels like somehow this activism, or so-called activism, is going to arrive him at his perceived goal, which is the idea of the apex male, or his attainment of it. Now, the apex male is an idea built up from...
In the 20th century, a number of thinkers studying comparative mythology and religion noticed something peculiar about the myths of different cultures throughout history. Many of them shared fundamental similarities in theme structure and symbolism. This led to the question as to how such similarities could arise in cultures separated by both space and time.
That philosophy generally, in the 20th century, was used by many philosophers like Carl Jung, Joseph Campbell, Friedrich Nietzsche, and Walter Otto to demonstrate a parable with the duality of in civilization or within man. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to try to understand why he is the way he is.
Look, listen, and learn.
In Greek mythology, Apollo and Dionysus are both sons of Zeus.
This is the beautiful Olympian Apollo, who, following the classical tradition now, as it comes to us, represents protection and represents the consciousness and light and the ego system above the line. This is the other Greek deity, Dionysos, who represents the dynamic of the unconscious. From below consciousness, he comes singing forth. Now, the great thing about the Greeks and about the humanistic tradition is both of these are regarded as supreme gods.
Britain's white working class, traditionally the heart and nerve of the nation. We turned out in 2 world wars and kept Britain's engine room humming. We were seen as solid, reliable, decent and uncomplaining.
We respected the middle and the upper classes, and by and large, they respected us.
Since the crash in 2008, the magnificence and magic of modernity and the growth and living standards increase has, dissipated.
Today, a young white working class boy with not much education is now struggling to get an apprenticeship that will give him a career. So now they go into, work in a car phone shop, go and work in Sainsbury's, go and work in these places where it doesn't look like there's much of a career. And today, access to a council property is far more terrible than it was 50 years ago. So now the confusion is, what is the problem? The problem is the free market system that says that's the way it is.
And the cynicism within the country or the populace, within our leaders and the columns of power, has also declined. Their security in those traditional archetypes has been lost, the apex male, because the attainment of it is just not real, leaving a gap for a trickster. Now, what's the significance of a trickster?
Whereas in this authoritarian tradition where all comes from the mind of one deity, the opposite are devils. The word demon in our tradition carries this dual meaning. Demon is that unconscious impulse that is the dynamic of your life and which comes to you in vision and dream.
A reason I used Apollo and Dionysus is, as I said, Apollo is the light, Dionysus is the dark. And in this case, the trickster represents the dark. He is the Pied Piper. He is the person who wants to, the trickster is the cunning and devious figure who plays tricks and other ways disavows normal rules and defies conventional behavior.
In interpretation, it's the devil. All that a devil is a repressed demon, one who has not been recognized, one who has not been given his due, has been not allowed to play into your life and so becomes a violent threat.
Now, with that in mind, remember the film Fight Club and Brad Pitt's character, Tyler Durden.
Welcome to Fight Club.
Now, Tyler Durden, in this instance, will be Apollo. He is the ideal to Edward Norton's narrator character. He is everything Edward Norton isn't and would like to be.
All the ways you wish you could be, that's me. I look like you want to look, I fuck like you want to fuck, I am smart, capable, and most importantly, I'm free in all the ways that you are not.
Yeah, because his aesthetic of the traditional success.
You and I know what a teve is. Is this essential to our survival in the hunter-gatherer sense of the word? No.
Has failed him. He feels lost in an ever-changing world. So that manifestation of Tyler Durden is the light that he is aspiring to.
You want me to hit you?
That's right.
What, like in the face?
Surprise me.
But in that relationship, he descends further and further into the cult of Tyler Durden.
First night at Fight Club, you have to fight.
Which, in Greek mythology, is exactly what the god Dionysus was or meant to the Greeks.
Worshipping the state of intoxication and the liberation from societal inhibitions that came with it, because wine predates Mycenae in Greece and consequently Dionysus, and the wine cult is very focused on wine and the effects thereof, with the Dionysian aspect almost seeming secondary.
He was a figure who was ritually and ceremonially celebrated in intoxication. It was also part of it, there was a secret cult around.
First rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club.
As he descends further into this cult, what transforms Edward Norton's character isn't the light, it's the dark.
Where the flat, hard packing sounds over the yelling. or the wet choke when someone caught their breath and sprayed. You weren't alive.
It's the rebellious, it's the violent, and it's the archaic nature that becomes more of him and further away from the Brad Pitt character. To where at the end of the film, it becomes clear, or he is shaken to the realization of his full aspect.
What did you just say?
What is wrong with you?
What did you just call me? Say my name.
Tyler Durden. Tyler Durden, you fucking freak. What's going on?
And the unconscious, that Tyler Durden is his unconscious. And we all know how that ends.
You met me at a very strange time in my life.
It is basically just the rebirth myth, or a redemption story, or the hero journey.
The hero journey, leaving one condition, finding the source of life to bring you forth in a richer or more mature or other condition.
But the actual premise of the Fight Club is the metaphysical manifestation of an arena where the unconscious battles to regain rationality. Now, those followers in the cult are there for the intoxication to forget themselves in the utopia of tragedy.
You got it. No.
Do not fuck with us!
Say it. Because... Say it. Because we're the same person.
Who will use their cunning and shapeshifting to try and subvert and undermine that of which it is opposed to. Now, in my opinion, whenever these cultural schisms occur, there's those who feel left behind tend to defer back to a default thinking of man and the construction of myths to understand the world. Now, let's be clear. These things are not scientific. They're just the best empirical evidence we can surmise about the world and each other. It's just metaphor, of course, but a need to cling to these myths in crazy times is cyclical. It's a reminder of the significance this shift in collective consciousness has had on those we have left behind. And that in itself is a tragedy. Let me leave you with this, and just bear this in mind. Has the apathy over the last 2 decades and relative decadence and security provided to most of the Western world and its democracies left the generations disconnected from modernity and their struggle, also confused by the myths of the past that have been exaggerated, therefore reverting back to those traditional archetypes in order to be reborn?
Break it down!